Hello, welcome to And So It Begins, where we review our favorite bad movies. We have no knowledge of cinematic artistry and are highly unqualified, but we do not care. I'm Ashely.
And I'm Caleb, and this podcast is brought to you by Highbrow Lowbrow, a Chicago-based comedic platform with sketches, podcasts, articles, and more. Please check us out online at highbrow-lowbrow.com or on Instagram at highbrow_lowbrow_. Also, please help us and support this podcast by dropping a rating or a review wherever you are listening to this podcast. That's all I have to say. So, are we ready to get into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so Ashely, what movie are we reviewing today?
We are talking about Brazen. It's on Netflix. You can only watch it on Netflix. It's a Netflix original movie. It came out in 2022. It's 1 hour and 34 minutes of crime, drama, and mystery.
And love.
It's also TV 14, so if you're 13, don't watch it. And honestly, if you're 14, don't watch it.
Right. Also, if you're older than 14, don't watch it.
I just said that.
Oh, I thought you said if you are specifically 14. If you're 14 years old and watching this podcast, we have missed our target audience.
There are some things that I don't think I'd want my 14-year-old to watch.
Most of the movie, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. Okay. So it's written by Nora Roberts. Technically, it's based on a Nora Roberts novel called Brazen Virtue. The screenwrite was written by Edith Swenson and Donald Martin. It was directed by Monica Mitchell.
Good for her.
Starred in by Alyssa Milano,
You
Sam
know her.
Page, and Malachi Weir.
Who was... Oh, that was... You literally wrote it. Other detective. You wrote it because I was like, who is that?
Yeah, I put in the notes.
Malachi's a fun name, though.
I just realized it was the name Malachi and not Malachi.
Good old Malachi.
Oh, gosh. I'm glad that I made that connection in my brain. Okay. It got a 4.1 out of 10 on IMDb and a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, and we're going to tell you why.
Okay. So, let's get into it.
All right. And so it begins.
Wait, time out. Did you like the can opening?
No, I don't
It
think
begins.
so. I don't
It's
think
like
so.
the beginning of
No,
something.
I don't think I like it.
All right, then we're going back to this.
No, that's much worse.
Okay.
No, I prefer the soda can.
What about... That's a long drum roll. That's an excessively
All right,
long
that
drum
was
roll.
long, but it felt right, I guess, kind of. And so it begins, and you meet Grace, who is a really famous writer of murder novels, and she goes to visit her sister urgently. And
Very
she
urgently.
just does, okay? And then she's like staying at her sister's place for like a few days. I'm not really sure the timeline of how many days this spans.
It seems like this could all be wrapped up in a week, if I'm being honest, this whole movie.
Right. I think that it is like a shorter timeline, which makes the love story more shocking.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. But basically she goes on a date with like her sister's next door neighbor, which just happens to be a detective.
Right.
And then while she's on that date, her sister's murdered. I know. And then you find out her sister was living this double life, and she was a dominatrix on the side. Weird side gig,
Yeah,
but
Fantasy Inc.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And then 2 other dominatrices are murdered, and then
wait, okay. Dominatrices? Is that like...
plural dominatrix.
Dominatrici?
No.
Dominatrisu?
No.
Dominatrix.
Traces.
I think it's like that's the plural version is just the word itself.
2 dominatrix.
Like fish.
Okay. All right. Okay. I like dominatrices, but that's fine.
I do like that the best.
2 other people are murdered, and then Grace and the detective fall in love, all while solving her sister's murder, maybe in a week. And Binks, you're in the way. And then basically the creepy kid did it. You could have known that from basically...
I like how you cut right to it. And the creepy kid did it.
No, like literally he's like the creepiest kid ever.
So obvious.
So you're like, wow, I have a feeling that guy's pretty suspicious. And he did it. So, and then it pretty much ends like a rom-com where the murder writer and the detective fall in love.
Yeah.
And that's the whole movie.
That's
but it's an hour and
literally
34 minutes of fluff. So
Yeah, it did not need to be that long. And even an hour 34 is not that long, but it felt too long.
We paused it so many times to be like, oh my God, there's an hour left.
Jeez,
oh my God. But anyways,
yeah.
Caleb, do you have questions?
I do have some questions. Thoughts?
I don't know.
What about an
Absolutely
elephant?
not.
An elephant?
No, that one's wrong.
Here's a good one.
Oh, no. PTSD.
Okay,
Nope.
about...
Also PTSD?
Were you involved in tornadoes as a child?
No, but Twister really scared me.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we'll figure that out later. I do have some questions. So I'd have to say my first question, which is just something that I literally thought of a minute before this movie, before we started recording this.
Before this movie that we're filming.
This film.
Thanks to you guys.
Thanks to our listeners.
Shout out. We love you. Especially because they're my in-laws.
Other than...
they're the only people that watch, but
hey,
I do
Mom,
love you guys.
Hey, Dad.
Okay.
So other than the book being called Brazen whatever, why is it called Brazen? Why is it called that?
Okay, what is the definition of brazen?
Okay, so that's what I looked up. Brazen is bold and without shame. So she's bold, being a dominatrix without shame.
But she was shamed.
But she's very shameful of it. Very ashamed. Extremely ashamed. Or the second definition is made of brass.
No, I don't think that.
I think that could be it. I
don't think that applies.
Verb, endure an embarrassing or difficult situation by behaving with apparent confidence and lack of shame.
Yeah, she definitely wasn't brazen. I mean, I guess she was a dominatrix, but she hid it.
Yeah, she hid it like in a literal closet in her bedroom.
It was a really big closet, but she had a lock on it.
It was a literal second bedroom next to the first bedroom, just with a tinier door. In her closet. Like you walk into her closet and then she has this whole room where she films all the dominatrix stuff. So let's also get into that, the dominatrix stuff in general.
Okay.
Fantasy Inc. is this online site where you can go and you can get your pleasures.
Yeah, but it's like one-on-one dominatrix. It's not just like streaming for anybody to watch. She has like appointments, like one-on-one.
She has clients.
Interweb clients that she's dominatrixing, but it's like these
gonna
people
dominatrix you.
Like, because like the entire time they show her being a dominatrix, she's like, yell it louder.
She's just saying like,
stop it,
verb.
say it.
She just say it.
Don't say it.
Bop it.
Twist it.
Yeah, she's literally just saying verbs and it, and that's her whole. And she's not even like doing like not even like sexy poses. Like half the time she's just standing there like, slapping a thing. She's just standing there normally. Yeah, it's like, what is this? The montages of her being a dominatrix are just nonsensical.
Like, if you want someone to just tell you what to do, I can bully you into that.
Right, yeah.
Do my laundry now.
Fold it. Yeah.
Go run a lap.
Yeah. Grand tour. Yeah. I don't know. It was pretty insane. But
no, but I thought, well, what my weird thing was about Fantasy Inc. is that it's a family-run business. With her, like, a daughter and her two parents.
Yeah, so
and it was like weird porn fantasies.
No, she said my brother and my mother.
Oh, that's worse to be doing with your brother.
Brother, mother.
Lover.
Brother.
That is a weird family dynamic.
Yeah, so the detectives go to interview the lady who runs Fantasy Inc. And she's like, this is a family-run business.
We're really proud of it.
Professional.
They're performers.
Right.
They're
artists. That overemphasis on that was just like, okay, I think they're that's dressing up and slapping the camera. Like,
I'm not going to yuck your yum.
Right.
But I don't think I agree.
Right. I agree with your unagreeing.
Thank you.
I think it's disagree, isn't
it? You unagree?
I unagree with you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a weird dynamic. Speaking of weird dynamics, let's talk about Grace and her sister.
Yes. What is her sister's name, by the way?
Kathleen.
Kathleen, yes.
Or AKA Desiree.
Desiree. That's her dominatrix name.
Yeah. Good dominatrix.
Desiree.
Yeah, it's a good name for a dominatrix. No, okay. So Grace the movie opens and she's like at a book signing, and she's like reading her book.
Right.
And then she gets a call immediately after. We're thinking it's from Kathleen. We don't hear the other side of the phone call. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'll be there right now. or like, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
And then she shows up to Kathleen's house, who like opens the door and she's like, oh, I didn't think you'd come so soon. And like, then Grace is like, it was urgent.
You said it was urgent.
And then I was like, wait, you guys talk to each other, right? Because like, Kathleen, you must have called her and was like, here, come here right now.
Here's
and then
the
she
address.
was like, yeah. It's just confusing. And then you get there and then Grace is essentially like, yeah, so what was so urgent? And Kathleen was like, I'm doing well.
Yeah, that was so confused. They just have this very vague conversation about like catching up on life. And she's like,
oh,
what was so urgent that I had to come here? And she's like, no, I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
And then, well, so the writing of this whole movie is awful.
So bad.
The dialogue
Holy
is
crap.
really
Just nonsensical.
rough. So then during this whole like first time exchange meeting Kathleen and like Grace is like lays everything out for you. And she was like, oh my God, the last time I saw you was 5 years ago and you were addicted to opioids and you left your son and your husband.
Yeah, it goes from this very vague to like, here's all the plot. Boom.
Yeah. And well, the thing is like none of that really matters.
Didn't matter at all.
Didn't matter at all. So then she was like, no, I'm better. I'm a teacher. And I have a side hustle. And Grace is like, what's your side hustle? And she's like, oh, I'll tell you.
No, yeah, they're on the phone when she says that. And she's like, I'll get to that later. And then they just move on. That's just like, I guess we'll never find out.
Yeah, and then she's murdered that night.
They never were able to tell her later. Or she was never able to tell her later because she was dead.
Yeah. Honestly, when Grace was out with the detective on the date, the night that her sister was murdered, I was like, is the detective in on it?
I was waiting for a huge plot twist like that. Like, he's her neighbor. Like, something could have been fishy. But it was just... And honestly, the detective ended up serving almost no point other than having a love story. Because he really didn't help on the case. She ended up taking over the case.
Because she's a murder writer, so she's really good at solving cases.
Okay, can we jump into that really quick? Okay.
Yeah.
So... She's dating the detective who's doing the murder.
Well, they've been on one date.
Right, yeah. So this
date was weird. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't. They went to dinner and they were talking really loudly. And she's like, "Okay, what about this murder?" And they would go into something like, "Okay, you enter the room and there's a dead body on the floor." And then like they're having dinner at this nice restaurant, talking really loudly about murder.
Alyssa Milano throughout this whole movie is just super loud. She just like
she comes up to people and she's like, "Hey."
Yeah, she just starts conversations. Hi. Like she just yells at people. And I don't know if I debated the whole time, is she just a bad actress or is she just like just aggressive as heck?
I don't know. The only thing I've really watched with her in it is Charmed.
Right, how was that?
I loved Charmed, but it's witchy.
And
you can get past a lot of that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a little bit late, but that's fine.
But that's a good one. I'm definitely going to go back to that.
No, it was a weird date. And they're in love and they're dating and they've been on one date.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, super weird.
No, that love story was super forced and just unnatural. And like in a week's time, they essentially fall in love and become madly in love. So that literally the last scene of the movie, after this like huge climax, the murderer tries to kill Alyssa Milano. He comes in. I guess he did serve a purpose. He killed the murderer. I guess he shot the murderer.
Yeah.
Whatever. After this huge climax, what the movie's been building all up to, that just ends, and then it just cuts to them just snuggling on the couch, and they say some like flirtatious things back and forth and reference like earlier conversation, and they laugh, and then it's over. It just abruptly ends.
Yeah, and it's like really bright and sunny with like happy music, and I was like, you were almost murdered.
This was a rom-com. This just became a rom-com in the last scene.
Weird.
Super weird.
And that line that we were talking about?
Yeah. What was it again?
Once isn't going to be enough.
Yes. Okay. Right. So the first time they cross the boundary of just being good friends and date, and they make sweet, sweet love.
Yeah, but right beforehand, he like the detective.
Yeah, they've just like taken off all their clothes. They're ready to kiss.
And then he's like, "Once isn't going to be enough." And then we're like,
"What?"
Okay. Well, you're talking a pretty big game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't feel like you gotta go a second time.
Yeah, it's also like
down.
You're like mentally preparing her like this is gonna be exhausting.
This is gonna be like 10 minutes. Yeah. Right.
This is gonna be really exhausting for you.
Right.
FYI.
Yeah, I hope he's stretched because once is not enough.
Gonna be enough,
right?
right.
And then at the very last scene, what's a rom-com? Does she say it?
Yeah, she was like someone once said, once isn't going to be enough. And you're just like, you're gonna end it on that line.
It's like, this is the worst.
God,
this is brutal.
it's really rough.
It's really rough.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
I was getting into the captain whole thing. So basically,
yes, sorry.
So it's a lady captain, and the detectives are trying, or Alyssa Milano comes to the station and like pleads her case, like, I gotta be involved on this case. I know it's my sister, but like, I write books about murder. I know everything about murder.
Yeah.
Some specific line she says is like, I can get inside the mind of a killer, which seems ominous. Like maybe she's a killer.
Yeah, and then she's like, especially the ones that prey on women.
Yeah.
And I just want to be like, do you hate women?
Like, why are you
so good at that?
Extra qualified for that? And then
what are your qualifications?
What did
You're
you
not a
major in?
detective.
You're a literary novelist.
We
like,
get it.
What do you?
You've got an imagination, but that doesn't mean that you know anything.
Right. And I think this is just such a dumb trope. I've seen this before where it's always like the murder novelist knows murder.
I think there's like many shows on TV where it's like
it's a murder novelist who's solving murders.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean this isn't a new thing, but they're like treating it like it's revolutionary.
Does that actually happen?
No.
Because then it's like, it would be so easy to be like, oh, well, I'm going to write a few books and then now I'm going to be a detective.
Just quick change of career.
You don't need to go to college.
No,
you don't
just
need
write
a criminal
books.
degree.
Just write a few clever books. Just write a few clever twists and turns.
Twists and turns, psychological thrillers, and be like, I know people's brains.
Yeah.
She was a profiler. Is that what they said?
I don't know what they said.
But also the only reason that she did anything to this case is because she just interviewed people, essentially. She like went around and talked to the people that her sister worked with, which is like, yeah, the detectives should be doing that. And they would have gotten the same answers.
Right. I mean, it didn't need to be her. She wasn't anything special. She just did it faster than them.
No, not at all. The only thing, so like...
But wait, really quick. I want to finish the detective thought. So the detective straight up just tells her no, but then Alyssa Milano just doesn't care, and she just goes into this like monologue about like...
Well, it's all about the... What do they call that? The reason why.
The motive?
It's all about the motive. And the motive has to do with power because she was a dominatrix. And then the...
Right, she explains how like the body was laid out as if they were on a cross.
Also...
What is that about?
Yeah,
we don't address that. Doesn't get
never
explained
addressed.
at all.
Like that
I
was
don't know why.
a huge part of like why they thought that whatever. Because after all the killings, the body was like laid out like a cross,
like they were crucified. Yeah, like crossed feet and arms out.
And that's never brought up.
Never. I mean, there's never a hint of anything religious mentioned in this.
So I was like, I don't know.
Well, maybe is it a Catholic school?
I don't know. They wear uniforms.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's Catholic.
True.
Could have been Lutheran. Could have been Presbyterian. No, I don't know.
Yeah. But also, can we just talk about the line from the detective really quick? That's literally the best line of the movie.
The line.
So the captain lady, she's the captain.
And it's a lady.
It is. Oh, dang it. That would have been so good for... Oh.
Yeah, no. It was progressive, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, so... That was a much-needed sound... Oh, squeals. Okay. I don't know these sound effects. Anyways.
Sorry. We're going to work on that, I promise.
Yeah, I don't think we will. So, they're like... Alyssa Milano's telling her big plan to catch the killer at the end of the movie.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm gonna be the dominatrix.
Right, because the killer keeps coming in on the next two dominatrixes while they're filming, while they're recording their sessions for their clients. But wait, also, did we ever find out how he knows when they're filming? Because it's a private show, isn't it? How does he know?
Well, I think he hacked into the webcam, right? Because that's how he knew which house was hers.
Right, but like. But
actually, I really don't know.
We never. What's his connection to that couple? The guy who turns out to be gay, which like clearly he's also not the murderer, but like because he's a student.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay, so Alyssa Milano's plan to catch the murderer. Back to that. Wow, we're getting sidetracked a lot today.
Yeah.
Okay, so she pitches it. I'm going to dress up as Desiree. I'm going to be Desiree again. Desiree's going to come back. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Murderer's going to come in while I'm dominatrixing my dominatrixies.
Yep, that's everything.
And then all the police are like, yeah. And then
good idea.
The detective, the chief captain, looks at her. You deliver this line.
You've got guts and a twisty mind. It's not twisted mind. It's a twisty mind.
And we even had closed captioning on it. It clearly said twisty.
And you're like,
what?
Thank you for that compliment. Oh my god.
Your mind is so twisty. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
that made me laugh out loud. So we paused the movie and just laughed for a while. That was brutal.
You've got guts and a twisty mind. We've been quoting that often. So
the writing is so bad.
It's really bad.
This movie is like filmed well, like it's like legit sets, legit lighting, legit everything. Like it looks great and it like should be a good movie, but the writing is such
awful.
Trash.
Well, okay, so I don't read Nora Roberts books, and this isn't anything against Nora Roberts, but I think that because they based it on the novel, I think they used some lines from the novel.
That would
so
make
like
sense.
When they were describing her ex-husband that she just left with her son, which is like a plot that really didn't need to be there, but they kept on being like, oh yeah, her husband's really rich and connected. They said that like 4 or 5 times to describe this man. I was like, no, like we get it, but you could tell that it was just, oh, he's rich and connected. Like you could tell that was probably how he was described in the novel, and that was the only way they're going to describe him.
There was some phrasing very often that clearly was forced and like shoved into dialogue. You're like, that made no sense. And just in general, so many of the conversations that people didn't even seem like they're in the same conversation. Like they were just disconnected and just saying things that were like, what? That doesn't even apply to what she just said. What are you saying right now?
Yeah, it was the writing really. Like for this. So like, I think it was the 3rd murder technically, but like the one that survived.
Yeah.
And it's because that they were like in their live session, and then the guy that was like being domineered.
Dominated.
Okay. He was being dominated by this woman. Saw her get attacked. So then he called 911 and was like, hey, this is happening. And then they're asking him like, well,
Wait, the second one? Because the second one led to a murder. The third one. The third one, no. Remember, she was just in her kitchen, so it was after her session with her client.
So it must have been the second one. Or was there a 4th one?
No, the second one was the guy saw it, and he was like hardly looking at the screen. Anyways, no, but he's like, they're like questioning him about it, and he was like, I've got low blood sugar. And you're like, why is this in the conversation? He just brought it up.
Yeah, he was just like, I wasn't sure. I've got low blood sugar.
No. He's like, that thing was so they're like, why were you like on this side? And he said, I need these online interactions. And then he paused and he said, I've got low blood sugar. And you're like, wait, huh? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And the way he was watching, they did like a flashback to him seeing the murder happen.
Yeah. And he was like not even looking at the screen. He was like, these huge reactions, but like his eye line was above the computer screen that he's supposed to be
right
watching.
Corner to top left corner, just back and forth aggressively. And then he shuts the laptop, so he doesn't even see the murder
happen. And
then he calls the cops, not knowing because he's talking to them and he's like, I didn't know if it was part of her act or not. And it's like, you're in a police station. Like, you call and you said it was a murder.
I know. And then he's like, is Desiree okay? And it's like, clearly no, you're in a police station.
Dead. What are you doing?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But maybe it was the low blood sugar talking.
Yeah, classic. Yeah. Also, when he said that he just chugged water, that doesn't help your low blood sugar.
No, it doesn't.
He needs
it's
a
water.
Cookie.
Anything. A cookie.
Yeah, pretty
well. But we're going to pause here.
Okay. All right. So on the other side of this, we'll get more into some special stuff, but there's a lot of issues in this one. So we'll see you on the other side.
Are you starting your own podcast? Don't know where to get started? You need Buzzsprout. Follow the link in our episode show notes to join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout. Highbrow Lowbrow depends on Buzzsprout for their simple uploads, free promotional tools, full statistics package, and more. Try it out yourself for free. Buzzsprout, the user-friendly podcast hosting for non-techie people. Highbrow Lowbrow has swag.
Wham, wham, wham.
Get apparel for all of our podcasts, Dink and Dunk, and So It Begins, and Belligerent Brackets, plus amazing Highbrow Lowbrow t-shirts, hoodies, joggers, sweaters, stickers, and more. Follow the link tree in our Instagram or the apparel button on highbrow-lowbrow.com. Get our swag and join our Brow-munity. Here's some of the sweatshirts that we have. This is in So It Begins. It has little binks on it. Oop, that hit me in the face. Thanks so much. Oop, thanks. Ooh, ow, ow. Thanks. And we're back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what we were talking about.
I don't know. I do think it is important to get into the murder, the actual, or the
solving of the crime.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this is what happens. So first murder is Kathleen's sister, or Grace's sister Kathleen, who is Desiree.
Right.
And then Alyssa Milano, before the other two murders, keeps on trying to peg it on her ex-husband because it's always the husband. If you're a true crime listener, it's always the husband, okay? And they were going through a divorce. He was trying to take custody of the kid, which makes sense because she was addicted to opioids. Yeah, rich and connected. She was addicted to opioids and literally left them.
Yeah, they really breezed over that. That was
and she was like, well, I want full custody of my kid. And it's like, I feel like you should have custody. Absolutely. Like,
I don't know about full,
not
though.
full
Seems like he's got a pretty good situation with a very wealthy and connected father.
And you did leave them, you know?
Yeah, you did leave them.
Yeah.
Also, wait,
I know it's a complicated situation.
Okay, I'm getting sidetracked again. But they're living in their parents' house that they grew up in?
Yeah.
Are their parents just dead? We never even talked about
guess.
that. We never addressed where their parents are.
They're dead.
Okay, go on.
Okay, that's all I got to say. But anyways, so then she kept on thinking like, oh, it's a husband. Oh, it's a husband. And then these other two murders happen, or one murder, one person
attempted
lived.
murder.
And it was two other dominatrixes, and then it's like
both on this Fantasy Inc. website that has special clients.
So then it's clear it's more of a serial killer, and the husband doesn't have a motive to do that. So then they pretty much find out that from the one woman that lived, that the profile of the killer is like 6 foot, white male, size 11 shoe. I've never known so many shoe sizes of actors or actresses in any movie than in this movie.
Yeah, they're like size
what
11.
What size shoe do you wear? And they're like 10. They're like, not you.
Okay, get out of here.
And then
you're not gonna wear big shoes to a murder.
So many of those people wore size 11 shoes.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Every time there was a potential murder, they're like, "What's your shoe size? 11?" Oh shit.
Yeah, and it was like dun dun dun, and you're just like,
That was like the smoking gun. No matter what, it was like, oh no, they found it first because it was a footprint in the mud at Desiree's murder, the original murder.
Yes. Well, that's what, yeah. But then also, like, the footprints for all the other murders were also size 11. Yeah. So they knew it was the same guy.
But yeah, like, so many people they asked, and everyone knew each other's shoe sizes too. Like, I don't know my friends or my parents or my family's shoe sizes.
Not at all.
Do you know?
I know your shoe size is 10 and a half.
Right. I mean, that's pretty good. I think, okay.
I told you my shoe size when we were watching
8.5?
Yeah, I wear an 8.5.
Nice. All right. If we're ever...
murdered.
Well, I think if we're murderers.
Yeah,
if you suspect us of as murders.
If it's an 8.5, you better watch out.
She did it. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that to people. I don't want to put that on the internet.
I'm not a murderer.
I would never do that.
I'm not saying that
Just
I'm a
murderer.
Just to
clarify, yeah, I would never do that.
Quick FYI.
Quick FYI.
Yeah, so, but then they keep following the path. It's a high school student, and she was a teacher, so they start interrogating some kids at her school.
Well, no.
Oh,
so I wanted to get into it. Yeah, okay. So the reason that... Yeah, rewind. So then they're like, okay, well, who's doing this, whatever. They find out that Kathleen had it wasn't like a falling out. She had a somewhat of an argument with the janitor at the school because he knew that...
Who looks like a man-boy child.
Yeah, because he knew that she was on this Fantasy Inc. because his cousin is the webcam guy for Fantasy Inc. and he told her about it. Fantasy Inc. webcam guy is dating one of the high school students
who they initially think is a murderer because this guy's always like, he's out and about at the time of the murders, and he knew Kathleen. He was in one of her classes.
Really, he knew about it because he was dating the webcam guy for Fantasy Inc. But also, like, I mean, that's like a bit of juicy gossip about your teacher. Like, you would know about it. And he was...
Everyone seemed to know that she was Desiree, by the way. They made it seem like a secret. Everyone they talked to was like, oh yeah, she's a dominatrix on Fantasy Inc. We know that.
And like, he wasn't out yet to his father, so he was sneaking around, so he seemed suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, his dad knew his son's shoe size. I don't think my dad knows my shoe size.
I don't know.
I'll ask him later.
We can ask him. So, yeah, we're going to lunch with you guys in like a little bit, so we'll ask. But so then he's like ruled out, and then there's a funeral there, and like you meet all these other kids that all seemingly like really liked her, whatever. But then this suspected kid, what is his name? Like
Gerald?
Rand. His name is Rand. Yeah. Rand then calls out the creepy kid that's like literally creepy the entire movie.
This kid at the funeral is alone in
He's like a mix of Timothée Chalamet and...
I think James Franco.
Yeah, he's like a mix of those. He's like skinny, bony, has like a really pointy nose, and it's like really, really creepy. But like
all the ugliest attributes of those two actors.
Yeah, I don't want to call him ugly.
He's not ugly, but he's just like weird looking.
Yeah, he's the creepy kid in high school.
I mean, they creeped him up for sure.
Yeah, he's the creepy kid in high school.
Yeah, but also like literally at the end of the funeral, he's standing over her casket alone.
And just like looking at her.
Yeah, and Alyssa Milano walks in on him. It's like, clearly this kid's the murderer.
Creepy.
From the minute we met him, he's just creepy and weird. Clearly he's the murderer.
Even his mom knows that he's creepy because she walks up when he's like staring at the casket, and she's like, sorry, my son has a problem with boundaries. And it's like, yeah, thank you for apologizing. He's weird. Do something about that.
Yeah, thank you for apologizing. He's a murderer.
Well, this kid also, he's creepy, and his mom is a senator. And the very first time we talked to him, he's like, yeah, my mom's a senator of Missouri, the show me state. I have to say that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. That was a weird way to introduce a character. Like even before he shared his name, he said that.
Yeah, it was weird. But
yeah,
his mom is a senator.
State? What does it even mean?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look that up. Go on.
Okay, so you find out that Rand essentially, like, they're both on the wrestling team. So Rand is like, I know that like you were obsessed with her, the teacher, and then he gets beat up by this creepy kid. And then that's like, the detectives are flagged like, oh, this is fucked up, whatever.
Oh, creepy kid could kill.
Yeah, because he also is the same profile, wears size 11 shoes, and is a white male that's 6 foot tall.
Right. I mean,
so then they're like, oh, well, actually, and he doesn't have an alibi for any of those things either, which they got through really quickly. And then
they jumped to that conclusion right away. It was like, oh, he beat him up. Oh, he's the murderer.
Yeah. So then they're like looking after him, whatever. And when they go to look for him, he's not at his house.
Nope.
Because he's trying to kill Alyssa Milano. And then
who's dressed as Desiree on a webcam.
Yeah, she's all dominatrixing.
Also, terrible montage again of this. She just yells, say it a bunch, and is just awkwardly standing around.
Bop it. Twist it.
Twist it. Flick it.
Louder.
It was...
it's weird. It's a weird thing to watch. But, so, yeah, he, like, walks in on her doing that, and then essentially... because she's like, she can get it. She has this twisty mind, and she can get into the mind of murderers.
So twisty.
So she's like, I know why you did it. Your mom is a senator, so you're having problems with women having power, and you liked my sister because she was warm and comforting, but when you found out she was a dominatrix and that she could dominate you like your mother, then you had to kill her. And then he like snaps, and he's probably the best actor in the movie.
Actually, yeah, he does a pretty good job.
He's like crying, and I was like, wow,
highs
this is
and lows
believable.
of emotion,
yeah,
and he's
really
just like
great.
an angsty, crazy teen boy.
Creepy. He does creepy really well.
Yeah.
But then
What's his name?
I don't know, but you never find out why he's like posing the bodies like that. It was really strange.
Yeah, there's a lot unexplained.
Yeah, and he like attacks Alyssa Milano and like almost kills her, and then her detective boyfriend shows up right at this like at the right time kills the kid, which oh my God, that scared me actually.
I finally found a sound effect that I knew would apply.
Oh my God, that scared me.
Because he shot
so
him.
Loud. Stop it.
Okay.
Oh my God, that was scary.
I give you more of a jump in this podcast than the whole movie.
Yeah, that's true.
In a thriller.
Wow, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, he kills him. Detective boy comes
also,
in.
like I thought they would be like show a scene of like the grieving mother, or
it's just over. It's
literally
just over.
He's dead, and then you have like 2 minutes of them making out on a couch, and the whole like once isn't enough, and you're like, oh,
I guess we're done here.
She recovered really well, and
she
nobody
got
cares
over
about that
her
kid.
Sister and found a new love in a week. She watched a child die in front of her.
What a week!
What?
Oh my God!
Big week, Alyssa Milano.
That's a huge week.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of how the mystery is solved, and I just thought there was going to be more of a plot twist because literally the entire movie they were setting it up to be this creepy kid, and I was like, "There's no way it's going to actually be the creepy kid."
Right.
But nope, totally is, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, some other goofy lines I just want to touch on is when Alyssa Milano like first is like. Okay.
What?
When she first finds her sister dead in her bedroom, her initial reaction is to run, and her sister's bedroom is on the second floor. She runs all the way down through the front door onto her lawn and just screams out in pain. That's her initial reaction. She like held it in for like 2 minutes of running downstairs.
And grieving is a different process for everybody, but I feel like she got over her sister's death pretty quickly.
Yeah, she was just caught up in like, we must find a killer.
Well, yeah, and she just like wanted to sleep at the detective's place. So her sister was murdered, and she didn't want any police officer to stay with her in her house. She immediately just asked the detective. She was like, I don't want to be alone. Can I stay at your house? And you're like, okay, pretty forward. You had one date.
Right, yeah.
Also, like, it's just so coincidental that she lives right next to a detective.
Yeah, I thought because of that proximity thing, there was going to be some twist with it. I was expecting a twist the whole time, but like you said, it was just clearly like, it's that weird creepy kid. Like, yeah, obviously.
It was, I don't know. Also, so we were talking about it, and like, this movie is based on a book. Yeah. And it's pretty meta. Yeah. So Nora Roberts wrote a book about somebody writing a book.
And that book that the person wrote about in her book became reality. Yeah. In a book. What? About murder. Yeah. Right, yeah.
It's confusing. And it's just like, of all of those things that you could make a movie, you chose this one. I'm sure she's written better novels.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know where work.
Maybe I'll read a Nora Roberts novel.
Maybe this book's really good, and then the movie just
look up what the novel got.
What the novel got? Is there a novel ranking site?
Yeah, like Goodreads.
Can you do that?
What are you doing?
I was gonna read about the Show Me State. So Missouri, it's called the Show Me State, right? Right. Who knows why? Well, this webpage knows why. It says the most widely known legend attributes the phrase to Missouri's U.S. Congressman Willard Duncan Vandiver, who served in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1897 to 1903. So this is the Show Me. It's been the Show Me
I
State.
literally was not listening.
It's okay. It really doesn't matter. The more I'm reading this, the more I'm like, this is like, I don't care. Basically, he just called it the Show Me State in an address to in some speech. It's really lame story and
interesting.
Yeah. Whatever.
So Brazen Virtue by Nora Roberts got a 3.9 out of 5 on Goodreads, which is pretty good. 4.4 out of 5 on audible.com, and 79% of people liked the book. So I'm going to say the book was probably better than the movie.
Yeah. Also, I like the name Brazen Virtue better. Like, why did they cut off the word virtue?
I wonder, there's probably not a copyright thing, but like, I wonder if they were like, oh, we can't call it Brazen Virtue.
I don't think it's a copyright thing. It's literally the whole plot of the book. They literally...
Yeah, that's a good point.
They literally made the book a movie. I don't think they're like, oh no, they're going to know if we put virtue in it.
But at the same time, like, why does there need to be brazen virtue? Brazen is a virtue. It's kind of like a...
I don't think it is. I don't know. Let's not get into the vocabulary.
I don't really know anything.
The whole
about
writing
grammar.
of this is
It's meh at best.
Oh, one of my favorite things, really quick, sorry.
What?
When Alyssa Milano is talking to the weird janitor man boy, there's very clearly... she's holding an umbrella, 1, and 2, there's just audio of rain falling.
But there's no rain.
In the scene, there's no water. There's no moisture.
Rain.
You even see like little puddles in the background forming.
Yeah,
but there's no rain. It's so confusing.
Yeah, and it's also like, so he doesn't have an umbrella, so he should be wet, right?
Yeah.
But he's not.
He's just not affected at all.
Yeah, it's a weird... Who knows? Who knows? I think I've only got like 1 or 2 more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like, so when, what's his name? Creepy Kid? We're just going to call him Creepy Kid.
Gerald.
It is Gerald. Gerald.
They say it different a few times, I feel like.
Yeah, they do. So when he's like describing why he hates his mother enough to kill somebody else, which doesn't make sense. He's like, well, it's because my mom drinks alcohol. Do you remember that? He was like, well, sometimes she gets drunk. And I was like, if you're going to kill somebody over that, you got to stop. Like, what? She drinks wine occasionally. Like, how dare she?
Yeah.
Makes no sense. And then also, it's like, I don't know. I feel like that through those lines, they were trying to make you feel bad and understand his motive for killing like Kathleen because he hated his mom. But it's just such a big leap because he essentially complained because he was like, well, he just hates women in power because his mom's a senator that likes to drink sometimes. That's no reason to kill anybody.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
I know. And he's got like, he lives this like really great life and they have like family dinner together. Like yeah. And she like gives him his space, like to the point where like he can
murder people without her even noticing.
Hours without her even noticing that he's gone. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like they've got a pretty good dynamic, and I don't really understand why that caused him to like snap and want to kill someone.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's just weird.
But yeah, I think that's all I got. How about you?
One last thing is just the relationship between Alyssa Milano and her sister Kathleen. It
was weird.
Very weird. So it feels like they hadn't talked for 5 years. Was that mentioned? She says
that we haven't talked in 5 years.
And it shows in their first interaction because they know nothing about each other, and it's just super awkward. But then she gives this super passionate eulogy at her sister's funeral.
Yeah, my sister was the best and so caring. And you're like, you haven't talked to her. And the first thing that you said to her was like, you were addicted to opioids and you left your son.
Yeah. Yeah, like what are you doing?
I know. It was really weird. But then I also love, so they like kind of have a fight in like their first night together, but then she like crawls in bed with her. And then Kathleen is like, what are you doing? There's not a thunderstorm. It's like you can only cuddle if there's a thunderstorm. Everybody knows that.
Them's the rules. Yeah, but like that's...
And this is one of the weird lines, and she's like, well, isn't there thunder and lightning?
Yeah, and you're like, what are you talking about?
No, there's not a thunderstorm. And at that point, nobody had died yet. So like, what's the thunder and lightning? I was just like, wait, what?
Maybe in this world, like they don't understand the concept of rain or like thunderstorms. Or
it's
like,
different.
It's different. No precipitation comes down, and like thunder is silent in this world. So there's always
no lightning strikes either.
Yeah.
But also, like, it would have been more cinematic to like have a thunderstorm, right? And this like
that would have made sense,
right? But everything's like so bright and sunny the entire time.
Yeah. I don't know,
but it was a weird one, guys.
Yeah, it was a weird one overall. Just too many. Once again, it's just the writing makes this so bad. Just so many conversations. Hard. You're like, what are you saying to that person? Like, that's not a thing someone yells. Like when Alyssa Milano first meets the detective who's the neighbor, he's like cutting 2x4s in his backyard, and she's sitting on the second floor, and she yells out to him, "Hey, you with the saw!" And then
you with the face.
Hey, you with the face over there. No, and then he's like, hello. And like they start talking, and then she's just like,
she immediately appears.
Yeah. Well, no, she was like, well, you know what they say, measure twice. And then he's like, cut once. And then that's the end of that conversation. And then she goes down there with coffee for him.
But he's anti-caffeine.
Right.
That's a weird plot of this movie.
Yeah.
He's anti-caffeine, but he drinks tea all the time.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't realize that there's caffeine in tea.
Yeah, there is caffeine in tea.
She gets him like a tease from around the world as a gift at one point.
It's such a long thing of dialogue, her describing how many teas are in this thing.
Yeah.
She's like, there's energizing tea. There's tea for thought. There's tea for positive mood. There's sleepy time tea. And I was like, it's tea. We get it.
What tea is.
Also, it's like the energized tea probably has caffeine in it.
I mean,
He's not going to want it.
Yeah, jeez, Eloise.
But then that's another thing at the end of the movie. She's like, oh, now I'm an herbal tea drinker because before she was a coffee drinker.
Right. Another callback.
Kind of painful.
That you didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so...
I don't know. Don't know about that.
What's some movie trivia, Ashley?
So only like 2 things of movie trivia. So in the opening scene,
Yeah.
Grace is reading from a copy of Nora Roberts' book, Brazen Virtue.
Yeah.
So like that line that she says where she then closes the book, that's actually Nora Roberts' book, Brazen Virtue.
Oh, nice.
Which I thought was kind of cool.
So that line
is
that she
from
read?
actual Brazen Virtue.
Huh. Okay.
Does that make you want to read the book?
No. Do you think that's a good line? I think it was all right, I guess.
It was
probably the better one
what
of
do
the
they call that?
Intro?
Foreshadowing. It was foreshadowing the entire movie. Because the line is literally about someone who was murdered because she's
plain
living
and boring, but
seems plain and boring, but actually is living a double life.
Yeah.
That nobody knows about. And you're like, okay, so that's what this movie's about.
So I've seen the trailers. This is what that's about for sure.
Yeah. And then the second fact is that a serial killer has to murder 3 or more people over a period of time. So when they only announced like, oh, there's a second murder, so it's a serial killer, that's like completely false. It has to be 3 murders for it to be a serial killer.
Really?
Not just 2.
Wow.
Yeah, even though like there was a clear even though there was like a clear pattern and like the bodies were the same way, they can't call it a serial killer unless there's 3.
Huh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a freaking detective movie. Somebody should have looked that up.
Yeah. Well, if we want to get really meta with it, that just means that because it's from a book about a murder mystery, it just means that she's unqualified to be a criminal investigator.
She's unqualified.
Right, exactly. I wanted to quickly read, there's 2 critics' reviews for Brazen on Rotten Tomatoes that I just found particularly funny because they're so accurate. Okay. The first one is, Brazen is worth no more than a laugh or 2. And it's not a comedy. It's true. I had several laugh out loud moments in that movie. Yeah, and then definitely. Also, Brazen is the murder mystery version of a Hallmark Christmas romance.
No, it's 100%. Absolutely.
It becomes more about their love
romance?
than solving the mystery.
I know. And that's why I'm like, your sister died. She cried like one day.
Right. She just didn't even care.
No, not at all.
She's like, I gotta make sweet love more than once to this detective.
Once isn't enough.
It's just never enough.
Once is enough for all you people out there.
Yeah.
What's your sum it up in a sentence?
My sum it up in a sentence. Great question.
I don't know if I like that.
I really like it, so I think it's gonna stay.
I don't know. Okay.
We'll talk about it offline. Acclaimed murder author who everyone knows. Oh,
this
yeah. Okay.
Like
I messed up. I goofed. Let's start over.
Sorry, I'm having trouble reading my own handwriting.
Sorry, I'm illiterate. I forgot. Acclaimed murder author who everyone knows. See, it's like, it bothers. I should have edited this because who everyone knows, acclaimed already implies that, whatever. Acclaimed murder author who everyone knows pushes her way onto the murder case of her dominatrix sister who is extremely beloved by her rich student body.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good.
I mean, yeah, her whole student body. They're very wealthy. Like that whole, all the students are. They literally, the wrestling team got gold watches.
Yeah.
What was that about?
I don't know.
That was weird.
My sum it up in a sentence is the son of a senator murders his teacher because he doesn't like women in power.
Oh, right to the point. And honestly, very accurate.
Yeah. Well, I'm just like,
This movie is actually about the murder.
It would have made more sense if he murdered his mom.
Yeah. Well, he said he was gonna do that.
But then why doesn't he?
Right. Yeah. Follow through, dude. Follow through, Timothée Chalamet knockoff. Come on.
No, seriously. It's just like, it doesn't make sense to murder like 3 people because you hate your mom.
Right.
Just kill your mom and save the rest.
Save the rest.
I'm not telling anybody to kill their mom.
I'm not like promoting mom murder.
And I would never murder anybody.
Right. No.
But I'm just saying, it would have made more sense.
It's weird that you've had to say that twice in one episode, though. I'm getting a little suspicious.
It would have made more sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely would have.
Because then it would have been a more interesting thing, because it's like, that's truly like somebody that isn't living a double life.
Right.
She's a senator.
That's like a Criminal Minds episode, I feel like.
Right? A senator, all of a sudden from Missouri, the Show Me State, is murdered.
As we all know,
and then you're like, oh, like, who would have done that? She's not a dominatrix. She's got no reason to be murdered. But then you find out she's a terrible mother and her son killed her.
Right.
That would have been a better movie.
Yeah, and maybe she's secretly the dominatrix too.
No, we don't need to add that.
We didn't. Yeah, that whole plot line was unnecessary as heck. But
yeah,
it would have made more sense, I feel like.
It would have. But I think that, yeah, it would have made more sense. And she doesn't, yeah. And then they could have went through the whole, like, it's probably her ex-husband. But then it was her son, who she loved. Like,
she loved.
That would have been way more interesting.
She loved her son.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But.
All right. Okay.
I think that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. All right. So that'll be all for us.
Us today.
Oh, whoa. Beating me to the end of the written sentence that I had ready to go.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, and please make sure to subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please also make sure to check out Highbrow Lowbrow's other podcasts, Dink and Dunk and Belligerent Blankets. You can find them at our website at highbrow-lowbrow.com, and make sure to follow us on all the socials and give us some lovely comments and love.
Yeah, I'll let you know when we get a Patreon.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to set up.
It's really not that one.
I know. We'll get to it.
Maybe.
All right, bye.
Bye.